you'll see it leads into a kind of social Darwinism too. But there can't be any philosophy that explains the world. If you think there is, the only way you can get a philosophy to work is to exclude all counter-evidence, rule it out in advance, so that you don't have to attend to it, or that you can explain anything that happens. Usually people simply make sure they never encounter one way or another. Let's turn to Anna. In part 7, there's a long sequence, much of which is done in stream of consciousness inside her head. Of course, in that special way this novelists do it, with the author also in the character's head. And you see it, her state of mind accelerating. She has all those things that we've seen her do before. False listening, well, we see that comes to an extreme in how she deals with Vronsky. Misremembering in order to suit a thesis, she does that. Comes to believe in her own inventions, the way we saw her do with Karenina. She gradually loses more and more touch with reality, and at the same time thinks she understands reality better, until she finally has what she calls the clear, piercing light that revealed the meaning of all human existence. That clear, piercing light. Romanticism is by its nature an extremist ideology. It doesn't do things by halves. It's all or nothing. And that kind of thinking, we see, will shape things for her. If you turn now to page 888, this is where that sequence begins. Beginning of chapter 8. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing the wrong passage here. That's the part 8. 835. Chapter 23, that's good. In her eyes, at the bottom of the page, in her eyes, the whole of him, with all his habits, ideas, desires, with all his spiritual and physical temperament, was one thing, love for women, and that love, she felt, ought to be entirely concentrated on her alone. Yet that love was diminishing, she thought. That's what this means, this is paraphrasing her thought. Consequently, so, she reasoned, he must have transferred part of his love to other women, or to another woman. And she was jealous. She was jealous not of any particular woman, but of the decrease of his love. Not having an object of her jealousy, she was on the lookout for it. At the slightest hint, she transferred her jealousy from one object to another. At one time, she was jealous of those coarse women with whom he might easily renew his old bastard ties. Then she was jealous of the society women he might meet. Then even she was jealous of the imaginary girl whom he might want to marry, for whose sake he would break with her. And this last one, jealousy, tortured her most of all, especially as he had unwarily told her in a moment of frankness that his mother knew him so little, but she had the audacity to try and persuade him to marry the young princess Sorokina. Notice the totality here. All of him has to be about one thing, about love. And that is part of romantic ideology, right? You know, if you have any other interests, it means you are not fully in love. Contrast that with the scene where Levin is in the countryside and is anxious about Kitty, and yet he can enjoy the fine day. For example, for Tolstoy, the world is never whole, and even your mind never has everything in perfect order. You are not whole. But Anna thinks in a romantic way that it must be all or nothing. And so if he has any other interest, and of course he does, and from his perspective, from most people's perspective, not every minute of your life can be about love. And it doesn't mean you don't love the person if, you know, you suddenly gradually become interested in something else every now and then. But the emotional reasoning she has is that since he is all about love, he's a romantic hero, if he has any other interest, it must be another love. And so she becomes jealous of everything. And being jealous of him, Anna was indignant against him and found grounds for indignation in everything. For everything that was difficult in her position, she blamed him. The agonizing suspense she had suffered in Moscow, that divorce, she put it all down to him. If he had loved her, she thinks, he would have seen all the bitterness of his position and would have rescued her from it. But it's everything awful in her position. Well, it's his fault. Of course, she's also chosen her position. I mean, it isn't. If you choose something, you take responsibility for it. But she wants everything to be like her brother, not to blame. And so she winds up blaming him for everything. And the first incident you get is when Anna has taken under her wing this English girl, whose name, of course, is a version of Hannah. And Vronsky says that this whole relationship is fake. It's not natural, as he puts it. And then she interprets that in a particular way. Bottom of 837. Unnatural, she suddenly recalled the word that stung her most of all. Not so much the word itself as the intent to hurt her with which it was said. Well, it wasn't really an intent to hurt her, but this would get tracing her thoughts and feelings. I know what he meant. He means unnatural, not loving my own daughter to love another person's child. What does he know of love for children, of my love for Seryozha, whom I've sacrificed for him? But that wish to hurt me. No, he loves another woman. It must be so. Get the reasoning here. He hasn't said it's unnatural because she doesn't love her own daughter. He thinks it's unnatural because it's fake. It's not good, not coming from the heart. But she knows she doesn't love her own daughter, and therefore, that's what he must mean. She projects it onto him. Now, people do this all the time. This is not peculiar to somebody like Anna. That's the sort of thing you connect a thought with something else, so you can assume somebody else has that when they say something. And then, of course, she hasn't sacrificed Seryozha for him. We saw that, right? She could have had Seryozha. She can't anymore because Karenin has changed his mind, being in the grip now of Countess Lydia Ivanovna. But she could have at one time. She didn't sacrifice him for it. So what happens here is she constantly goes through a dynamic. She quarrels with him because she's jealous, because he speaks to her with some sort of what she takes to be an evil intent. But then she's horrified because she can't imagine living without him. And so a quarrel would mean her death, and she gets horrified and tries to make it up with him. But to make it up for those reasons is humiliating. And so she feels humiliated and interprets everything he says as too complacent, too superior. And then she wants to quarrel with him because she resents what she takes to be his condescending tone. And the dynamic goes back and forth. If you put yourself in Vronsky's position, he doesn't know what to do. He says something which has a meaning to him. She interprets it in ways that he does not mean because she thinks she knows what he does mean. He can't understand why. He learns eventually, well, maybe I should just give in and say I'm sorry whenever she does this. But she interprets that as condescending and is angry at it. So he tries silence, but silence certainly shows contempt. There is nothing he can do. She can outmaneuver him just the way she outmaneuvered Karenin. She is much better at this sort of thing than not only he, but just about anybody else. And he isn't her match. He can't get through. So, beginning of chapter 24, he comes back. She says, "Well, was it nice?" She asked, coming out to meet him with a penitent and meek expression. Just as usual, he answered, seeing at a glance that she was in one of good moods. "What do I see?" "Oh, that's right," he said, pointing in the trunks in the passage. "About going to the country." "Yes, we must go. I went out for a drive, and it was so fine. I longed to go be in the country. There's nothing to keep you here." This is what he has wanted. "Nothing to keep you here, is there? It's the one thing I desire. I'll be back in a moment, and we'll talk it over. I only want to change. Order some tea." And he went into his room. Now, this is how she feels. There was something mortifying in the way he had said, "Ah, that's right," as one says to a child when it stops being naughty. And still more mortifying was the contrast between her penitent and his self-confident tone. And for one instant, she felt the desire for a fight rising up in her again. But making an effort, she conquered it. He met Vronsky as good humanly as before. And then at the bottom of page 839, "So, we'll leave the day after tomorrow." That's as soon as possible. And then Vronsky says, yes, the day after tomorrow. And then he pauses and says, no, wait a minute, he says, "I forgot, the day after tomorrow is Sunday. I have to see Mama," said Vronsky, his mother, embarrassed because as soon as he uttered his mother's name, he was aware of her intense, suspicious eyes. His embarrassment confirmed her suspicion. She flushed hotly and drew away from him because now she thinks he's going there to meet the Princess Sorokina. Now, of course, the reason he blanches at saying he's going to mother is precisely because she's obviously thought this before, and he hates mentioning his mother because she will think this, so he gets embarrassed, and the fact that he's embarrassed is proof to her that he's really interested in the Princess Sorokina. You got how that works. And "Can't we go tomorrow?" she said. "Well, no, the power of attorney and money for the business I'm going there for, I can't get by tomorrow," he answered. "If so, we won't go at all." "But why not?" See, he doesn't know what's going on in her head. He's just going, "What do you mean? If we don't go the day after tomorrow, we don't go at all? Why? What sense does this make?" You can't get what's going on there. But why not? "I shall not go later, Monday or never." "Why?" said Vronsky, looking shocked. "Why, there's no sense in it. There's no sense in it to you because you care nothing for me. You don't care to understand my life. The one thing I cared for was Hannah. You say it's Hannah. Listen, when you're having a quarrel with somebody, the worst thing to do is to bring up some other topic. Because then you can't address what it is. And even worse than that, it's a version of it, is an earlier quarrel. Then every quarrel becomes all quarrels at once. If you want to make sure your relationship falls apart, get to the habit of doing these things. You say it's affectation. Well, you said yesterday, "I don't love my daughter." Now remember, he's never said that. She thinks that that is what he must have meant. And she forgets that that's her interpretation and says, he said it. That I love this English girl, that it's unnatural. I should like to know what life there is for me that could be natural. For an instant, she had a clear vision of what she was doing and was horrified how she had fallen away from her resolution. But even though she knew it was her own ruin, she could not restrain herself, could not keep herself from proving to him that he was wrong, and could not give in to him. "I mean to say," he was beginning, but he checked himself. "I must ask, what it is you want of me? I mean, what am I to do? I mean, okay, what do you want?" What can I want? What can I want? All I can want is that you should not desert me, as you're thinking of doing. And she isn't thinking of it. She said, understanding all he had not uttered. Understand? She thinks she can read his mind and knows what he means, what he has not said. And she treats him as if it were said, because she's certain that it's what he meant. But that I don't want. That's secondary. I want love, and there is none. So then all is over. You guys are mystifying me. Wait a minute. I said we're going a day late, and all of a sudden there's no love and all is over. How do you get from one to the other? Wait, said Vronsky, with no change in the gloomy lines of his brows. Louis held her by the hand. What's it all about? I said we must have been off going for 3 days, and on that you told me I was lying, that I was not an honorable man. Yes, and I repeat that the man who reproaches me with having sacrificed everything for me, she said, recalling the words of a still earlier quarrel, that he's worse than a dishonorable, that he's a heartless man. Oh, there are limits to endurance, he cried, and hastily let go of her hand. He hates me, that's clear, she thought. And in silence, without looking around, she walked with faltering steps out of the room. He loves another woman, that's even clearer, she said to herself, as she went into her own room. I want love, and there is none, so then all is over. She repeated the words she had said, and it must be ended. If he says the wrong thing, it means he must not love her, and if he doesn't love her, he must love another woman. We go very rapidly from conclusion to conclusion. You tend rapidly to the extreme. That's a particular kind of thinking. It's very characteristic of a certain kind of depression as well, right? You think of the worst outcome, and you leap to it. And it's hard to remind yourself when you're in this state of mind that you have leapt to it. It isn't necessarily the worst outcome that you can expect. The bottom of 842, Anna, he says, why distress yourself and be so? He said to her, kissing her hands. There was tenderness now in his face. And she caught the sound of tears in his voice. And she felt them wet on her hand. And instantly, Anna's despairing jealousy changed to a despairing, passionate tenderness. She put her arms around him and covered with kisses his head, his neck, his hands. She's going to go from one of these states to the other. So, in the next chapter, he says, I'm going at once to see my mom. She can send me the money by Yegorov. And I'll be ready tomorrow, he said. He's figured out a way, so he doesn't. Okay, you don't want me to wait to get handle the financial business? I figured out a way in which I can do what you want, so that we don't have to stay for me to go to Mama. I figured out a way to do that. Now, you would think she might take that as a positive sign, but she doesn't. But she was in such a good mood, the thought of his visit to his mother stung her. No, I shan't be ready by then myself, she said, and at once reflected, so that it was possible to do as I wished. You see? Then you were lying when you said we had to stay for you to get the power of attorney. You didn't have to. This is proof. And then, a little further down the page, where are you going? I want to go to Wilson's to take some dresses. Even on this moment, she's thinking about the dressing. So it's really to be tomorrow, she said, in a cheerful voice, but suddenly her face changed. Vronsky's valet came in to ask him to sign a receipt for a telegram. There was nothing unusual in Vronsky's getting a telegram, but he said, as though anxious to conceal something from her, that the receipt was in his study. And he turned hurriedly to her. By tomorrow, without fail, I will finish it all. From whom is the telegram? She asked, not hearing him. From Steve, he answered reluctantly. Why don't you show it to me? What secret can there be between Steve and you? Vronsky called the valet back and told him to bring a telegram. I didn't want to show it to you because Steve has such a passion for telegraphing. Why telegraph when nothing is settled? About the divorce? You saw it. Pass me in. He goes to. Karenina and Countess Ivanova now to ask for divorce. And this is one of the great comic passages. She is so far gone in craziness, and he too. You know, and you're thinking, you know, they have mystical trances. Even Steve can't accommodate himself to this one. So crazy. Yes, but he says he has not been able to arrive at anything yet. He has promised a decisive answer in a day or two. But here it is, read it. With trembling hands, Anna took the telegram and read what Vronsky had told her. At the end was added, little hope, but I will do everything possible and impossible. I said yesterday, it's absolutely nothing to me. Whether I never get a divorce, she said, flushing crimson. There was not the slightest necessity to hide it from me. So he may hide and does hide his correspondence with women from me, she thought. Not only may he, so she leaped to that, but he must be hiding. This is a scene, everything must be the same thing. Right? No counter evidence. No counter argument. Yashvin meant to come this morning with Boyta, said Vronsky. I believe he won from Pesta, etc., etc., etc. No, she said, irritated by him so obviously showing by this change of subject that he was irritated. Why do you suppose that this news would affect me so that you must even try to hide it? I said I don't want to consider it, and I would have liked you to care as little about it as I do. I care about it because I like definiteness, he said. Of course, he also cares about it because he really wants to marry her. Definiteness is not in the form, but the love, she said, more and more irritated. Not by his words, but the tone of cool composure in which he spoke. That is, in which she feels that he spoke. What do you want it for? Now remember, she says, definiteness is not in the form, but the love. And he replies, my God, love again, he thought, frowning. Listen, we've come a long way when the romantic hero says, not again, love. Not every argument is about love. Please, not love again. We've come a long way here, right? Oh, you know what for. That is what you want the divorce for your sake. And your children's in the future. There won't be any children in the future. This is how he finds out. Remember, when Dolly visited the countryside, he didn't know that there weren't going to be any more children. That's a great pity, he said. You want it for the children's sake, but you don't think of me, she said, quite forgetting or not having heard that he had said, for your sake and the children's. You see, this is why it doesn't matter what he says. She has a filter, which filters only certain information. It's sort of like an extremely partisan newspaper, if you read it, right? There will never, ever be anything that counts in the slightest way for an argument on the other side, right? It can't be. Okay? Either it won't be reported or it'll be, given such an interpretation. I spent a lot of time reading the problem and investigating it, so to speak. The question of the possibility of having children had long been a matter of subject of dispute and irritation to her. His desire to have children, she interpreted as a proof he did not prize her beauty. Think about that one for a moment. He can't love her if he wants children by her, because if he has children, then she won't look as good, she'll have stretch marks, and therefore it must mean he doesn't like her beauty, and therefore he can't really love her. Oh, I said for your sake, above all for your sake, he repeated, wincing as though in pain. Because I am certain that the greater part of your irritability comes from the uncertainty of your position. Yes, now he has laid aside that pretense, and all his cold hatred for me is apparent, she thought, not hearing his words, but watching with terror the cold, cruel judge who looked mockingly at her out of his eyes, or so she sees. Now go to page 848 in this little chapter 26. Never before had a whole day passed in a quarrel. Today was the first time. It was not a quarrel, it was the open acknowledgement of a complete stranger, or at least so she felt. Was it possible for him to have looked at her as he had when he came into the room for the pedigree if it were otherwise? Look at her, see her heart was breaking with despair, and go out without a word, with that face of callous indifference? He was not really cold to her. He hated her because he loved another woman. That was clear. You can see, I hope very clearly, how this is one of those cases of stated in the third person, but it's really paraphrasing the character's thoughts. And remembering all the cruel words he had said, Anna supplied as well the words he had unmistakably wished to say, and I unmistakably clearly belongs to her, not the author, even though it's in the third person. And could have said to her, and she grew more and more exasperated. I'm not holding you, he might have said. You can go where you like. You were unwilling to be divorced from your husband. No doubts that you might go back to him. Go back to him if you want money. I'll give it to you. How many rubles do you want? All the cruelest words that a brutal man could say, he said to her in her imagination, and she could not forgive him for them as though he had actually said them. But didn't he only yesterday swear he loved me? He, a truthful and sincere man, haven't I despaired for nothing so many times already? You see, it's not, the possibility of disconfirmation is not yet completely closed. And the reason this whole scene leading up to the end of Book 7 still has suspense is that it isn't absolutely certain until the last moment that she can't let some sensible counter evidence through. And here's a case where it just flickers in her mind. Just like, the possibility that Karenina is not unfeeling flickers through her mind, but then she rules it out at an earlier point. All that day, except the visit to Wilson's, which occupied 2 hours, Anna spent in doubts. Think of it, this is the last day of her life, and she spends 2 hours of it at the dressmaker's. On the next page. Now nothing mattered, this is 849, going or not going to Westminster, getting or not getting a divorce. All that did not matter. The one thing that mattered was punishing him. When she poured out her usual dark dose of opium and thought she had only to drink off the whole bottle to die, it seemed to her so simple and easy that she began musing with enjoyment on how he had suffered and repent and love her memory when it would be too late. She lay in bed with open eyes, but had lighted a single burnt-out candle, gazing at the carved cornice of the ceiling and at the shadow of the screen that covered part of it, while she vividly pictured to herself how he would feel when she would be no more, when she would be only a memory. How could I say such cruel things to her, he would say. How could I go to the room without saying anything to her? Now she is no more. Death, she thought, and such horror came upon her. For a long while she could not realize where she was. No, anything to live. Why I love him. Why he loves me. This has been all before and will pass, she said, feeling the tears of joy at the return of life were trickling down her cheek. And to escape from her panic, she went hurriedly to his room. So she thinks of death first as a way of punishing him. And here I want to go back to the epigraph, the opening quotation of the book. Remember, it's from the Bible, and it simply says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay." The words of God. And there's a history of interpretation of this. It seems on the surface to be saying that if you do the wrong thing, if you are false, it won't go. But understand that in that case, that's the sense of that quotation when it appears in the Old Testament. But understand that is for people who want to take a pro-Anna interpretation of the book. They don't like that because it seems to go the other way. So they note that the quotation also appears in the New Testament in a different sense. It's quoted to say, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," in the sense that leave retribution to God. Don't take retribution yourself. And then it's interpreted to be a criticism of the hypocritical society that condemns that. Now, I actually think both of these interpretations work. The society, Betsy Frescai, and of course they are. It is a hypocritical society. That's not why she dies, but it's there. It's definitely there. They both seem to me like they could apply. But here in this passage, you get a third interpretation. You can imagine Anna saying it. Vengeance is mine, I will repay. She wants punishment as part of her reason for doing it. It suddenly takes on another horrible meaning. "8:50. In the morning, she was awakened by a horrible nightmare, which had occurred several times in her dreams. And it's the one of the peasant, okay? Beating the iron. A horrible, which is connected with something absolutely horrible. Well, she gets into the carriage in chapter 28. Bottom of the door. She sat in the corner of the comfortable carriage. It hardly sprayed in the supple springs, while the gray horses trotted swiftly in the midst of the unceasing rattle of wheels and the changing impression of pure air. Anna ran over the events of the last few days, and she saw her position quite differently from how it seemed at home. Now, the thought of death seemed no longer so frightening and so clear to her, and death itself no longer seemed so inevitable. Now she blamed herself for the humiliation to which she had lowered herself. "I entreat him to forgive me. I have given in to him. I have confessed myself at fault. What for? Can't I live without him?" And leaving unanswered the question how she was going to live without him, she began reading the signs in the shops. Everything that passes by chance, right? Office and warehouse, dental surgeon. "Yes, I'll tell Dolly all about it. She doesn't like Vronsky. I shall be sick and ashamed, but I'll tell her. She loves me, and I'll follow her advice. I won't give in to him. I won't let him train me as he pleases." Bakery, Filipov, that's the next street sign you see, right? "They say they send their pastry to Petersburg. The Moscow water is so good. The springs at Mystichi and the pancakes." And she remembered how long, long ago, when she was a girl of 17, she had gone with her aunt to the Troitsin monastery. Riding, too, was that really me with red hands? How much that seemed to be splendid and out of reach has become worthless. But what I had then has gone out of reach forever. You understand, the sequence of thoughts is just reading every shop sign that comes by. And then there's a bakery. And she thinks the bakery's reputation is that they're so good, they send their pastry all the way to Petersburg, to Moscow. And then it's so good because of the water, and the water reminds her of her visits to the monastery as a child. And then the moment she can think about that, that's another opening out of her totalitarian mindset. It's something else. If she could stop thinking of the same story of her relationship with Vronsky as all there is, of the romantic narrative of leaving Karenina and taking up with Vronsky, she would realize that there is more to her life than what's in the story, and that it doesn't have to have that ending. It doesn't have to end. There's something else out there she's not considering, and it is, in part, the part of her that was there as a child, when she was younger, that doesn't fit into this narrative. If she could only focus on that, instead of the same cycle of thoughts about Vronsky, she'd see the world differently. She'd see that she was leaving something out. There was more to it. Well, so she gets the idea of going to Dolly. Unfortunately, though, when she arrives at Dolly's, Kitty happens to be there. And she's never repaired her relationship with Kitty from that time at the ball. Is Kitty afraid to see me? And remember, she has flirted with Levin, that's Kitty's husband. And she's extremely good at doing. And Kitty just knows that this is what has happened, and that he's been fascinated, at least a little bit, by her. And she recognizes it, too. Right? Well, that's what's behind this when she goes to Dolly and finds Kitty there at Bombay 57. "I came to say goodbye to you," she said, getting up. "Oh, when are you going?" But again, not answering, Anna turned to Kitty. "Yes, I'm very glad to have seen you," she said with a smile. I've heard so much of you from everyone, even from your husband. He came to see me, and I liked him very much, she said unmistakably with malicious intent. Where is he? She sees I says, darling, that she has tears in her eyes. She's almost crying. Chapter 29, how they looked at me as something dreadful, incomprehensible. What can he be telling the other with such warmth, she thought, staring at two men who walked by? Can one ever tell anyone what one is feeling? Now she's entered another stage. You see, from a world focused on oneself, she has taken it to the conclusion that we are all self-interested monads who simply go around using other people for our own happiness. You know what they tell you in the economics class, right? That's all we are. And that means we are self-enclosed. You never know, nor do you care about what someone else might be feeling. You're completely and the world is simply one self-enclosed person, not understanding another, using another. How I can see for her. She knows I was more than unusually nice to her husband, and she's jealous and she hates me and she despises me. In her eyes, I'm an immoral woman. If I were an immoral woman, I could have made her husband fall in love with me if I cared to. And indeed, I did care to. There's someone who's pleased with herself, she thought, when she saw a fat Rubicon gentleman coming towards her. He thought he knew me. Well, he knows me as well as anyone in the world knows me. I don't know myself. I know my appetites, as the friend said. Nobody knows anybody else, and nobody is anything but their appetites. Those two boys want some of that filthy ice cream that they do know for certain. She thought, looking at two boys stopping an ice cream vendor who took a rug off his head and began wiping his perspiring face with a towel. We all want what is sweet and nice. If not sweets, then dirty ice cream. And Kitty's the same. If not Vronsky, then Levin. And she envies me and hates me. And we all hate each other. I, Kitty, me. Yes, that's the truth. And then in French, Chutkin is the Russian name, everything else in French. Chutkin, coiffure. I have my hair done at Chutkin, just when she's passing by. Right? I'll tell him that when he comes, she thought, and smiled. They're ringing the bell for Vespers, and how carefully that merchant crosses himself, as if he were afraid of dropping something. All religion, all belief in something that there might be something higher is just so much hypocrisy. There isn't anything higher, and nobody could believe it. Yashvin says, he wants to strip me of my shirt, and I him of his. Yes, that's the truth. That's Yashvin's philosophy of love. We introduced Yashvin as Vronsky's old friend, who likes to gamble, right? And we're told he's not a man of no principles. He's a man of positively immoral principles. Right? He has principles, reverse principles, right? And his philosophy of life is, you try to strip me of my shirt, I of yours. And Anna will merge